Blank, released in 1997, is one of those movies that somehow slipped into cult classic status without ever really feeling like it was trying too hard. It's part hitman comedy, part romantic rekindling, and part existential crisis, wrapped in a high school reunion. The story follows Martin Blank, a professional assassin who's having something of a moral breakdown. He's seeing a therapist and avoiding a 10-year high school reunion in his hometown of Grosse Pointe, Michigan. Until, of course, a job pulls him right back there. While juggling rival assassins and surprisingly aggressive federal agents, Martin reconnects with his high school sweetheart, Debbie Newberry, and starts to wonder whether a guy like him can ever actually change his life. The film stars John Cusack as Martin Blank, bringing his signature mix of sarcasm and vulnerability. Cusack was already well known for films like Say Anything, and later went on to star in High Fidelity and Being John Malkovich, often playing introspective, slightly offbeat characters. Opposite him is Minnie Driver as Debbie, whose grounded performance adds emotional weight. She also gained recognition around the same time for Good Will Hunting. Alan Arkin plays Martin's long-suffering therapist, delivering dry, understated comedy. Arkin would later win an Oscar for Little Miss Sunshine. Dan Aykroyd shows up as a gleefully unhinged rival hitman, bringing energy that feels like a darker twist on his work in Ghostbusters. Then there's Joan Cusack, John's real-life sister, stealing scenes as Martin's efficient and oddly cheerful secretary. She's also known for roles in Working Girl and School of Rock. And rounding out the cast is Jeremy Piven as Paul, the childhood friend who grew up to work in real estate, years before he became widely known for Entourage. When the film first came out, it was actually received pretty well by critics, though it wasn't a massive blockbuster. Reviewers appreciated its offbeat tone, balancing violence with romance and humor in a way that could have easily fallen apart, but somehow didn't. Audiences were a bit more divided at the time. Some people loved the quirky premise, while others weren't sure what to make of a hitman story that spent so much time on therapy sessions and awkward reunions. It performed modestly at the box office, but nothing that screamed future cult classic. Over time, though, its reputation has only grown stronger. Grosse Pointe Blank has become one of those movies that people revisit and quote, especially fans of 90s cinema. Part of what comes down to is how well it captured a very specific feeling, that late 20s existential drift. Watching it now, it feels almost ahead of its time. How it deals with burnout and identity and the pressure to have your life figured out by a certain age. Back in 1997, that might have felt like a niche theme wrapped in a comedy. Today, it feels kind of universal. That's where the film hits differently with modern audiences. The idea of someone questioning their career path, feeling disconnected from their past, and wondering if it's too late to change direction, that resonates in a much bigger way now. Martin Blank just happens to be a hitman, but his crisis is surprisingly relatable. The therapy scenes, which might have seemed like quirky humor at the time, now feel almost mainstream. Mental health conversations are far more open today, and seeing a contract killer talk his way through his feelings with Alan Arkin lands in a different way now. Less absurd, more oddly sincere. There are also interpretations that audiences may not have fully appreciated at the time. Beneath the comedy, the movie is really about accountability and identity. Martin isn't just trying to reconnect with Debbie, he's trying to figure out whether he's defined by what he's done, or whether he can choose to be something else. The film never gives a neat, moralizing answer, which is part of why it sticks with people. It walks this fine line where Martin is both likable and deeply flawed, and the story trusts its audience to sit with that discomfort. As for where the film fits within the career of John Cusack, it's actually a pretty pivotal project. He co-wrote and produced the film, which gave him more creative control than many of his earlier roles. You can see his fingerprints all over it. The mix of dark humor, romance, and introspection shows up again and again in later projects like High Fidelity. It's part of a stretch where Cusack was carving out a very specific niche for himself, the thoughtful, slightly disillusioned guy trying to make sense of the world. And honestly, Martin Blank might be one of the purest versions of that persona. The movie also carries some stylistic traits that feel very 90s, but in a good way. The soundtrack, for one, is packed with era-defining tracks. The Clash, Violent Femmes, David Bowie, and it's used almost like a character in the film. The music isn't just background, it's tied to memory, especially during the reunion scenes, where the songs trigger nostalgia in both the characters and the audience. That connection between music and emotional recall is something the film leans into heavily, and it's a big part of why it remains so rewatchable. Then there are the iconic moments. The convenience store fight scene, for example, is a standout. Unexpectedly brutal, but also strangely funny in its choreography. And the line, "I killed the president of Paraguay with a fork. How have you been?" It's become one of those quotes that perfectly sums up the movie's tone. Deadpan, absurd, and just a little bit unhinged. Joan Cusack's performance, in particular, has a lot of these moments. Her calm efficiency in the middle of chaos is endlessly entertaining and has become one of the film's most beloved elements. Watching Grosse Pointe Blank years later, what really stands out is how well it holds together. The tone shifts should not work as well as they do, but they feel natural. The humor still lands, the action still feels sharp, and the emotional core is maybe even stronger now than on its first release. There's also something refreshing about a movie that doesn't over-explain itself. It trusts its audience, lets scenes breathe, and allows characters to be messy and contradictory. In a lot of ways, it's a time capsule of the late 90s, but it's also strangely timeless. The clothes, the music, the reunion setting, they all root it in a specific era, but the questions it asks about identity, regret, and second chances, those don't really age. If anything, they just become more relevant as you get older. So whether you're coming back to it after years or watching it for the first time, Grosse Pointe Blank has a way of sneaking up on you. It's funny, it's a little violent, and unexpectedly thoughtful. And it somehow makes a story about a hitman feel like one of the most relatable coming-of-age movies. Just delayed by about a decade. How relatable is Martin's life crisis to you today? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to join me for more trips back to the video stores of old.